who is willing to share with us, talk to us, educate us, train us. We pray that, Lord, you may bless her, Dr. Betty Miangi, as she facilitates this program. We are thankful, Lord, even for the gift of life and the many other good things that you're doing to us. We also pray, God, for the many people who are also suffering mentally, even in these economic hard times. That, Lord, you may remember us and give us your blessings. Not forgetting to thank you because of the gift of rain. And we pray that, Jehovah, King of glory, there will be hope for a better future. And indeed, we have that hope in you, hope that does not disappoint. We invite your presence and we pray that, Lord, you shall bless us. And this is our prayer of faith in Jesus' name. Amen. We shall start off so that we allow for maximum time to do this before 9. Kwa hivyo, at this particular time, ningetaka nikaribishe Daktari Betty Miangi. She's now known to us so that she can start and I can see her sharing a presentation. This is good. So, asante Daktari na karibu sana.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Yeah, so thank you so much for this invite. Like I always say, I don't take it for granted because serving God is my delight, and this is my way of serving Him. And I bring you greetings from my church, PCA Karen. I have told my elder that I have this class, and I also want to thank you, Evangelist, for mentioning that this is a follow-up to what we were discussing last time, because last time we were talking about dealing with addiction in the family. And one of the things we mentioned is that sometimes we are so overwhelmed by the things that are happening in our families, in our workplaces, that we actually forget ourselves, such that we find ourselves living for others, and we forget exactly what we were meant to be in the first place. Because whether we are parents or grandparents, there is a passion that was burning in our hearts as we were growing up. And sometimes we put that aside because of the issues that are going on with us. So this is about us. This is about each one of us. As we deal with the issues that are happening in our lives, how do we take care of our mind? How do we take care of our mind so that we can have an optimum life? You know, in spite and despite what is happening to us, how do we develop a healthy mind so that we are able to cope with issues as they come? Because one of the things that we teach in psychology is that even when you encounter someone who has an issue, you need to help them, but not get into the hole with them, not get enmeshed with them. You need to detach so that you can be of more effective help to the person. But when you sympathize and you jump into the same hole, then you become two patients, two clients who need help. So that's why it becomes important for us to think about us. How do we develop a healthy mind? And there's a picture that showing there, a picture of a lady riding a horse carrier. And when you look at this lady, you see she has her hands firmly on the reins of this horse. Because if she lets go of these ropes, then this carriage, the horse will run everywhere. And there's a possibility that she may lose her life or she may be injured if she lets go of the reins or the ropes, if you want to call them that. And this is exactly what we need to do with our mind. We need to have control of our mind, despite what may be happening. Even the issues of addiction that we talked about last time, even when there are issues of illness, we need to take care of this mind so that we are able to deal with these issues in a healthy way. If this lady lets go of the reins, then like I have said, there's a danger of her getting injured. The same way when we let our mind run astray without really taking a moment to reflect, what is happening to me? How am I feeling? What do I need to do? Then there's a possibility that you will have your life ruined, and you may also end up getting sick yourself. There is also another picture here. This is a near hostess, and I'm sure many of us have traveled by air. And there are these instructions that we are given just before the plane takes off, of what to do in case of an emergency. And this lady is now demonstrating the use of the oxygen. And one interesting thing they say is that in case there's an emergency and you have a child, you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on the child. The reason for this, and as mothers, sometimes we wonder, hey, how can you tell me to do it to myself first before I help my child? This is because if both of you get overwhelmed by the loss of air, then you may end up losing your lives. But if you're breathing properly, then you are able to save the child. The same way, we are saying that even as we handle the issues that are happening to us, we cannot pour from an empty cup. And I remember mentioning that last time. We need to take care of ourselves, to take care of our minds, so that even when those issues come, we are able to think rationally. So we put the oxygen mask on ourselves, and then we are able to look at our children, our wives, our husbands in a way that is more effective. When we talk about mental health, why do we say that someone has a mental health issue? The three things that we look at the emotions. And that's why we are saying that mental health involves our emotional, psychological, and social relational world, how we function in the world. Our emotions, are we people who are, who lose our temper, who get angry and we do things that we later regret? Or are we people who, when we are faced with issues, we get so sad, we get so sorrowful that for a whole week or for 2 weeks, we are not leaving the house, meaning that we are not able to control our emotions very well? What about our psychological, our thought processes? Sometimes we say, I'm not thinking properly because of maybe stressful events that have been happening to you. What about the social? Are you relating with people well, or are you starting to isolate yourself? Are you starting to, to disagree with people every now and then? Are you getting into conflicts every now and then? That is what we mean by mental health. We look at the emotional control. We look at the psychological health. We look at the social health. And that's when we can say there is a problem with this person. And when we look at the definition of mental health from the World Health Organization, actually, when we understand what mental health is according to World Health Organization, then we are able to look out for one another. You can tell actually when something is not okay with a person, maybe a member of the church, or maybe a member of the family, or maybe a friend, because we are talking about a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities. They can cope with the normal stresses of life. They can work productively and fruitfully, and they are able to make a contribution to the community. When you look at those areas, a person is able to realize his or her own abilities. Sometimes we look at people and we are saying, oh, this guy, he graduated from the university 2 years, 3 years ago, but they are doing nothing. They just stay in the house, meaning that he has the ability, but is not able to realize them, maybe because there is something that is disturbing them. Able to cope with the normal stresses of life, like what I've just described, overly, sad or overexcited, those extremes. And also when there are stresses of life, someone even becomes suicidal. And we say that when someone is suicidal, it is a clear sign of unmanaged stress and unmanaged depression. Working productively, someone is being sacked from one job through another. They are not being productive because they are not able to settle in one place. They are not helpful, and therefore they are not making a contribution to the community. And when you look at it backwards, then if someone is able to do all these things, maybe not 100%, but when there are stresses of life, they are able to snap out of it after some time, then we can say that this person has, reasonable mental health. But when there are these extremities, then we can say that there is an issue with the mental health of that person. So, but our topic today is about developing a healthy mind for optimum living. And one thing that we can thank God for is the power of the mind, because it is a very, very powerful thing that God gave us, which can build, which can destroy, if it is used properly. And that's why we say if there is one thing that we must take care of, it is our mind. And I think even the Bible instructs us to do the same, because the mind has the healing power. And you're saying that the key to health and happiness is a mind that is peaceful and positive. And interesting is that we are saying neither money nor a youthful body can grant well-being. The mind, it wants to be peaceful, but then there are issues that distract the mind, cravings of life, and they come and destabilize us. So what are some of the ways that we want to share tonight of using our minds as a healing power for optimum living? And I'll go through them one by one within the time that we have. One of the things is about self-talk. And I'm sure you have heard people being told, why are you so negative? And we say that this negative talk that people, engage in, like saying, I'll never make it. I don't think I'll be able to do that. This negative talk, it actually becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because God has given us, he breathed divinity into us. And so we can create things with the what we say. And we say that, yes, you can think about something, but the moment you say it, the moment you verbalize it, then you give it life. It's like you have given it wings to fly. So we need to be careful about the things that we say to ourselves and also to our children. Because we say that as parents also, the things we say to our children, they send them to a certain destination. And that's why I gave an example the other day of a boy who was found in prison, and he was asked by some journalists, why are you here? And he said, I am exactly where my father said I would end up. So self-talk. Words have great power for good or for ill. And the self-talk comes from the internal dialogue, the things that we are saying to ourselves. We may not say it loud enough, but this is what we are whispering to ourselves. As we are going for that interview, what are we saying? Let me go and try. I'm sure I will not make it. They had asked for 10 years experience and I only have 5. This self-talk, this negativity, it actually sucks the energy out of you to an extent that even when you sit in front of that panelist, you're already looking like an apology. And winning that job interview will take the grace of God because of the things that you're telling yourself. Are you giving yourself energy, or are you sucking energy out of you? And that's why we are saying that parents, we need to learn to bless our children, to affirm them, to encourage them, because the things that we say to our children, it forms the basis of what we are talking about today, the internal dialogue. So if a child is growing up hearing, you'll never make it, you're not good enough, it becomes the source from which they will draw later in life. So we are saying when we do this to our children, it forms an internal dialogue from which they can draw strength even in our absence. And one thing that has been discovered about issues of substance abuse and even mental illness is that it is at times an attempt to silence that internal critic. And that's why last time, you remember, I told you that one of the questions that you can ask someone who is getting into addiction is, are you hearing voices? Because they tell us in the facilities, tell this lady to shut up, tell this man to shut up. He's telling me I'll never make it. He's telling me I'm not good enough. It is out of, and that's why even the Bible says that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So what are you saying to yourself as you engage in that project? What are you saying? Are you encouraging yourself, like Paul said, encourage yourself in the Lord, or are you sucking energy out of you? And some of the things that we say to ourselves emanate from what we were told when we were growing up. This is a picture of a father speaking negativity to a young child. And you know that a young child has a brain that is very impressionable. We see that it is like a sponge that actually absorbs everything that we are saying. This one is saying, I don't have the time. This is your own fault. And so when this child is old enough, these words aren't going nowhere. They will be somewhere stored in the subconscious. And when they are faced with a challenge, this is what they will pull. They will pull. It is my fault. I will not make it. And that's why you find that people are failing to live to their full potential because of the internal dialogue. So what are we saying this evening? That we can free ourselves from, having issues with our minds by encouraging ourselves and speaking positively into our own lives. And one way of speaking ourselves up is that we need to listen to what we are saying to ourselves. Then we can challenge what we are saying. Like if you're saying, I don't think I'll make it, then you can challenge that. Have I tried enough? Have I exhausted all the options? Challenge your self-talk and then change your self-talk. So self-talk is one way that we can develop a healthy mind, so that we remove that toxicity from our mind by injecting positive talk into our minds. Point number 2 is about our past. Make peace with your past. We all know that we are coming from families where we had different experiences. Some of us may have grown up in dysfunctional families, single parent families. Sometimes we may have witnessed violence. Yeah, so I was just talking about someone who may have been betrayed by maybe a partner, and they left them with kids, and now they are not able to forgive that. So I keep saying that if your hands are full and your heart is full of someone who may have left, maybe God is preparing to give you another partner, but there is no space for them to occupy, because your hands are full, your heart is full. And that's why it is important to look at the things that have happened to us in the past. Forgive what you can, and as humanly possible, try to forget. Make peace with what you cannot change. So we are saying the reason why people find it very difficult to forgive is because of wrong understanding of what forgiveness is. Because sometimes we think that forgiving someone means going to them, kneeling down, and making elaborate rituals about forgiveness. But forgiveness is a decision that you make, that I will not carry this person in my heart anymore. I have released them. And that's why we are saying you can forgive someone even if you never get along with them again. Because forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. Forgiveness means that you have released that person, and you have, and it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to lead to reconciliation. You can forgive someone who has murdered someone, but still take them to jail, take them to court, or someone who has taken something from you. You can decide that I'm not going to allow my heart to be burdened by this, but justice must be done. Forgiveness is refusing to allow your past to destroy your present and abort your destiny. Forgiveness is refusing to harbor the baggage of grudges, bitterness, and resentment in your heart. Point number 3, remember we are looking at how to manage our own mind so that we can have life that is life of quality life. Reparent your inner child. This one is almost similar to making peace with your past. And we are saying that many people carry childhood wounds that, if not dealt with, affect the present reality. Our childhood experiences, they color our present. They influence the kind of decisions that we make. They influence the quality of relationships that we have. And that's why it becomes very important for us to look back at our own childhood and ask ourselves, how was my childhood? How was I growing up? Could I have some wounds that I have carried into this relationship? Because it has become a buzzword in mental health facilities and even uh, rehab centers, that childhood experiences are mostly to blame for the issues that we are finding in these rehab centers and mental health facilities. Because we have children who may have grown up in a family where there was violence, or children who may have been abandoned, either physically or emotionally, children who were abused either physically or sexually. And when that person becomes a grown up, those wounds that the child suffers are still within them. And that's why you find that sometimes you'll be having a conversation with someone, and all of a sudden they are so hurt, they are so angry, or they are so sad, and you're wondering, hey, I thought it's a small thing that I told you. But to them, it is a big thing because there is a wound that you have touched. So for us to be able to have an optimum life, we need to have a moment of reflection and ask ourselves, am I carrying some wounds that I have brought into this marriage? So that when my husband says something that reminds me about my dad, I'm all out fighting, and he gets confused and wonders, hey, what is happening? Or as a man, have I brought some wounds into this marriage so that when my wife says something that touches a certain wound, I lose my temper and things go, astray. So we need to ask ourselves, what are the childhood experiences that I had? And since we cannot go back and be brought up by our parents, then we need to reparent that inner child. This is a big topic, which maybe God giving time, we can look at it more elaborately about reparenting your inner child. So we are saying reparenting yourself means providing the nurturing, affection, and recognition that you wish to get from your parents. So were you discounted by your parents where you came home with good results and they said, sio mbaya, sio mbaya, and you are number one, and they're saying sio mbaya sana, being discounted, being ignored. These are some of the things that color our present, and they affect the way we make our decisions, the way we form relationships, the way we stay in our jobs, in our marriages, and all that. It is colored by our past experiences. And you're saying by working on the childhood wounds, we allow ourselves to be more present and enjoy life in the here and now. And we are saying when we don't reparent ourselves, when we don't reflect on our childhood experiences and do something about it, this is what happens. That you have a child that is very, very sad within you. But because you don't want to burden people, then you wear a very happy face. So everyone thinks you are happy, you're okay, but within you there is a child that is crying. So these are issues that we need to think about and reflect on them and ask ourselves, what can we do to raise this child again? This child within, he needs to be raised by you. You'll become now the parent of this inner child that is you, and encourage them and affirm them and acknowledge them. That way then you can live a life that is more healthy, and you can have relationships that are more healthy. And we are saying, when you are not reparenting your child, you will have a big life like this big car that is here. But who is driving? A 5-year-old child. You can imagine what is likely to happen. This child is likely to cause an accident. This child is likely to even lose his life. This is what happens. We have big lives that will be driven by an inner wounded child. And what do we expect? Injuries in the family, conflicts, divorces, suicidal tendencies, because there is an inner child that needs to be parented by us. That is another thing that we need to do to optimize our lives. And there is a book that is still in the stages of development by the lady that you can see there. Is about childhood psychological wounds, a guide to your own healing and conscious parenting. And this is not just for young people. This is for all of us, because we are saying we all have our past. And we say that there is never a wrong time to do the right thing. Whether you are 40, you are 50, it's never late to do the right thing. Do you find yourself sometimes reacting to some issues that, go back to the experiences that you had as a child? You can acknowledge that it happened and move on and parent that child. Another thing that we can do to heal our minds is to break what we call the bystander position. The bystander position, what do I mean by this? Being an observer in life, being, inactive, even in things that concern you. People make decisions about, where your children will go to school, what they will wear. And as a parent, as a father, as a mother, your voice is not being heard. Even in the job that you're doing, you're not being heard, you're not being felt. You are like a bystander. A bystander is someone who just observes things happening. The people we call eyewitnesses. I'm sure you have seen them even in town. People who are always there when accidents are happening, when people are fighting, and they're the ones who are interviewed by journalists. What did you see? Oh, I saw the car come, and then it banged on this wall, and then I saw people screaming. And then they're asked, what did you do? They say, oh, nothing. Me, I don't know them. So imagine doing that to your own life. That today is 2022, then 2023 comes, you don't have plans for 2023. You're like a bystander. So we are saying the other way that you can, develop a healthy mind is to take an active approach in life. Where you are working, be active. Let your contribution be felt. Let your voice be heard. In the church, let your voice be heard. Let your contribution be felt. Make decisions, being a performer rather than a spectator. We use the Nike slogan. We are saying, don't hesitate, just do it. Sometimes, we have to make decisions and do something so that, we are also being felt. So this is another way that we can, become active. And when we do that, then because the mind, we say it is either you use it or you lose it. As we are being active in life, we are using our mind. And so we become active, we become more healthy. And we are saying that success in the public goes hand in hand with success in your private life. Success begins internally, and then it is reflected externally. So we are saying that you must make a decision internally that you will contribute to the decisions that are being made about your own life, about your church, about your country, about your family. And this will manifest in public, because you have made an internal decision that I will make a contribution. I will not be a bystander. And that's why we are saying, if it has to be, it is up to me. If something has to change in my family, it is because of the contribution that I am going to make. And the question that we ask ourselves, whose agenda are you fulfilling? Or are you just a bystander fulfilling other people's agenda? Do the least that you can do. Do the next best thing. Don't be a bystander. A bystander is someone who says, since I got sick, now I'm not able to do anything. Since I lost my wife, since I lost my husband. And so we are saying, now that you're sick, and now that this happened, what next? Okay, I lost my job, now I can't do anything. Okay, since now that you lost your job, what next? Don't be a bystander, do something. Another thing that we can do is to what we are calling cognitive reappraisal. In life, let's not be very quick to make conclusions or to make decisions. Sometimes we misjudge people because of, jumping into conclusions. And that's why we are saying, before you make a decision, think again. Before you judge someone, think again. Before you think that this person hates me, think again, talk to them, find out from them exactly what they feel. Before you think that that child is not picking your phone because they are being rude, think again. Maybe they have lost the phone. Before you think that maybe your wife is coming home late because of things that they're doing, think again. Find out from them. And that's why I like a unit that I teach at the university. It's called it's called critical thinking. We say critical thinking is looking for the truth wherever it can be found. Before you make a decision, think again. Ask a question. Talk to that person. Find out from them. And that's why I'm giving an example. Think of people who have lost jobs, relationships, and even lives because of reacting instead of responding to issues. Reacting means you become impulsive. You don't ask questions. You're saying, I know what you're thinking. I know what you want to do. You have not asked me. But then yet you're saying you know. And that way you get into conflicts with people. And that way it reduces the quality of the life that you're living. Another thing we can do is what I'm calling auditing yourself. Audit yourself. Like companies audit themselves to see whether they are performing properly, whether they are using their resources properly, whether their workforce is working well. We also need to have self-audit, having an honest assessment of our strengths and our weaknesses, understanding that life is lived in stages. When you audit yourself, you're asking yourself, how old am I today? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? Am I, fulfilling the demands of the stage of life in which I'm in? And we are saying we all know our weaknesses and our strengths. And that's why we are saying drop the pride and ego and own up to we all have our weaknesses. So the self-audit, we are saying, where are you in the stages of life? The stages of life mean that if you're in your 40s up to around the age of 65, maybe 45 to 65, I'm just picking one example. This is the age that we call the age of legacy building, where we build things that will outlast us, where we mentor other people. We are now being transcendental. And transcendental, we are saying, I'm doing something that will be my legacy. Legacy is not about buildings. Legacy is about things that will outlast you, the contributions that you are making to the society, for which you'll be remembered for. You're asking, are you where you want to be? What is your passion? What is stopping you from getting there? So we are saying, when you're doing a self-audit, you're asking yourself, am I really leaving a good legacy? Am I building a legacy that will outlast me? We need to take a moment to have a self-audit. And there is something I have posted here, and maybe I will share later. It's called the wheel of life. The wheel of life is where you're looking at various aspects of life and asking yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, what am I scoring in the area of work and career? Where am I in my work? Am I at the peak? Am I building my career? On a scale of 1 to 10. And you can talk about finances, you can talk about relationships, you can talk about your family, about your social circles. Do I have a confidant? If I'm suffering today, do I have someone that I can call and they will be ready to listen to me? Even if they don't have a solution, at least they will listen. About recreation, your hobbies, your interests. Do you have hobbies where you go to let off steam? About your physical health. How is your physical health on a scale of 1 to 10? How about your spiritual life, your own personal development? And you can score, you can actually put dots on the score that you think you have. And sometimes when we do that, this is how our wheel looks like. Okay, yeah. So this is when we score. Maybe in our spiritual life, we see that we are scoring a 2. In our family, we are scoring 9. So when you join the dots, this is how the wheel looks like. Maybe I'll leave it to you to tell me how far you can go with this kind of wheel. So when we are talking about auditing your life, we are saying it now gives you a clear picture of the areas that you need to work on. And it is possible. So when you're scoring your 2, you're asking yourself, what can I do to push it to 3 or to 5 so that my wheel can be a bit round and it can make my journey at least smoother. As we audit our lives, maybe we can talk briefly about the biggest regrets of old people. And I'm not calling you old people, it's just for information purpose. That when we don't become conscious of the stage of life, sometimes we find that we have lived our lives and we are looking back with a lot of regrets. I wish I did that. I wish I did that. We are saying that when people are on their when they are old, these are some of the regrets. Not starting a business, you kept postponing. Not having a healthy body, not exercising, and now you're here, you're old and sick. Not having a healthy body, not saving for retirement, not investing, not expressing your feelings, not traveling the world, not spending time on yourself and your family. These are some of the things that happen when we don't take time to audit ourselves. We are asking, where am I? Where do I want to go? And how will I get there? I saw a very interesting picture of an old couple that had gone to travel, and they were on a boat, and everyone had their binoculars looking out and enjoying, but they were deep asleep. So they had paid a lot of money to go for that journey, but they were not enjoying because they were tired, they are old. So these are some of the regrets. So when we audit our lives, then we can make adjustments here and there. Another thing we can do is to make a habit of writing down some things that are happening to us. That's what we mean by journaling. Sometimes when we journal, we note down how my day has been. This is what happened. This is how I reacted. Sometimes when you go back to that journal, you actually become your own therapist, because you are saying, I think here I overreacted. I think this one I didn't do very well. A journal now becomes like your personal therapist. And that is why Susan Sontag says that a journal is a confidant who is deaf, dumb, and illiterate. The journal will never speak back to you. It takes in everything. And that way you're able to relieve a lot of stress. You can write that angry thing that happened to you. You can write that thing that really disappointed you. So it is no longer burning in your heart. It is now on a piece of paper. Journaling, a very healthy way of dealing with our emotions. And you're saying in a journal, we express our private and secret thoughts more openly than we could to other people. And mastering the personal habit of settling time aside to journal will truly turn your dreams into reality. You're able to look back and you're saying, what was I thinking here? So you can correct yourself. You can adjust some of the things when you see how you handled a certain situation. And number 8, and remember, we are talking about developing a healthy mind so that as issues are happening, our mind is healthy enough to be able to face them. The other thing that we can do to have a healthy mind is to stay connected to family and friends for social support. And I remember mentioning last time that when we look at the social capital, when we look at recovery capital, one of the number one capital for most people is the family. When you have support of family, even when you're sick, the chances of you recovering and also staying in recovery are higher than someone who doesn't have social support. Have a confidant, someone who can take time to listen to you. Social support and attachment to family is protective against mental disturbances. We say that loneliness and isolation is a risk factor in mental disturbance. And some people have also said, this is I don't know, it's not out of research, maybe just out of observation, that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, but connections. When families reconnect and they adjust some of the issues that they have in the family, we find that even those who are suffering addiction, they recover better and faster. As we connect with people, it's also important to connect with God, because we say that no amount of counseling or medication can heal emotional wounds the way God can. There are those corners that only God can reach. And even in mental health facilities, this is a big topic about connecting with a higher power. Just being able to appreciate that there is a higher power that can help you to deal with issues to which you find yourself powerless. We are saying that when all is said and done, connect with God, who is the emotional healer. God has no moods. He will always love us. And when we connect with God, we can dare to dream again. We can regain our self-image in view of God's perspective, because we are looking at what God says about us. He says, I have written your name on the palm of my hand. Just believing that there is a God who is concerned about us. So we must learn to trust him one day at a time, because people will see you in terms of the mistakes that you have made in the past, the failures that you have experienced. But God sees the promise in you, and he sees your potential. So we are saying that connecting with God, it promotes the pillars of self-awareness. You know who you are in the presence of God. You are a child of God. It also helps us to manage our stress. Just saying that God cares, we have a God who cares. It also helps us with interpersonal relationships. As we come together in the places of worship, we are able to to have the support of other people. It gives us a sense of faith, self-confidence, and hope. A spiritual well-being, it helps people to cope with negative thoughts. Actually, connecting with a higher power has been found by research to be a very important factor in managing our mental health. The other thing we can do is to ask ourselves, what am I passionate about? What do I love to do? What is it that when I do it, I feel very decent, I feel very good? Discover your passion. Why are you in this world? God brought us into this world to answer some questions. So you need to ask yourself, what question did I come to answer? Is it about environment? Is it about children? Is it about widows? What is your passion? What do you enjoy doing? When you do something you're passionate about, it keeps your mind healthy and optimistic. We need to discover what is our passion. If you don't know it, ask your friends, ask your family members, what do you think is my passion? What do you see me doing and I seem to really enjoy? They will help you. And again, you can also pray to the giver of these gifts, who is God himself. We have a picture there of someone who is passionate about issues of mental health, wearing a gunny bag, passionate. Because me, I say, even if you wake me up at 3 a.m. and tell me, speak to us about mental health, I'll still mumble something, because I am passionate about issues of mental health. Discover what it is that you love to do, and it helps you to feel more confident, passionate about life. It increases your happiness. So when we are talking about developing a healthy mind, we are talking about looking at all these aspects of a human being. Look at your physical well-being. Look at your cognitive well-being. What is that you're saying to yourself? I'm a failure. Or are you saying I'm loved, I'm worthy of acceptance? That deals with your cognitive. And also look at your spiritual life, because you have seen the importance of connecting with the higher power. Look at your social health. How are you relating with your family members, with your church members, with your friends? Also look at your emotions, because we said that mental health has also something to do with your emotions. Are you managing your emotions well? That is the whole person. When we deal with all these aspects, then we can say that you are taking care of our mental health. We are taking care of our mind, so that we can have an optimum life. And when we do that, what happens? The outcome is that we have our young people thriving, because they have now taken responsibility of their own life. They are achieving their dreams. Their parents are also happy. We have happy homes because everyone is careful about what they are doing with their minds. So when we come together, then we can have healthy relationships, we can have healthy discussions, and also prosper in our career and goals. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and may God bless you. May God give you a healthy mind for optimum living. Thank you.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much, Daktari. It's always an honor and a blessing to listen to you and the way you articulate issues that pertains to counseling psychology and the line. We are so grateful.
Yeah.
And I believe our members have benefited from your presentation tonight. Is there anyone who would want to echo my words in way of just sharing a comment, even or a question? I'd want to give one person to just say what they've learned today. Nelly, Kingoi.
I just want to thank our facilitator for today.
Yes.
She was very much on point, and I feel very knowledgeable. Thank you so much.
Karibu. Rosemary Ndongo, are you saying something?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Rosemary. Go ahead.
I just want to say the talk is very useful and also helping us. But there are some areas where I did not understand, especially when the presenter mentioned about taking audit of ourselves. And especially more so when people are not working. I know when you're working, there's that performance evaluation and all that. But when you're not working, how do you get time to like audit? What areas do you audit yourself? And another thing, do you actually have how do you set aside time to like audit ourselves? The other thing is also about, you mentioned about the inner child, how to take care of the inner child, where you showed us the picture of baby driving a big car and all that. And I've seen some of my children doing that. They're adults, but yet they're behaving like babies. That so, and maybe they're not aware of it. Can I have, if I bring out to them, they get irritated that they're behaving like babies. So how do I go about it? Thank you.
Daktari?
I had asking about how do we audit ourselves, and I said it's not the kind of audit that we see in offices where people come, I don't know from which ministry, and they're asking us questions. It's about just taking time to to reflect about your own life. Where am I? What am I doing? Where do I want to go? And how will I get there? Just auditing your life to find out whether you're doing the right things, whether you're fulfilling your goals. Did you have goals for this year? Have you have you attained them? What are you doing to to ensure that you're not lagging behind in what you have planned? About the stages of life which I mentioned. We know that life moves in stages, and there are some demands that life has on us depending on the stage of life. And I gave an example of the age between 45 to 65, and I say that is the age of building your legacy. And as you are auditing your life, you are asking, what legacy am I building? What is it that I'm doing that will outlast me? Even about just mentoring someone, just being transcendental, that's the word I use, that you're doing things that are now beyond you, not just for you. So auditing your life is just being conscious of what you're doing with your life, and whether you're being productive with your life. And that's why we joined that with dropping the bystander position. Because when you're a bystander, You know, you wake up every day and you have no plans for that day. The day ends and tomorrow ends, and you say, oh, today is Wednesday. Oh, today is Sunday. It's like you had no plans for those days, for that day. So by auditing, we are talking about being, being active and being conscious of what you're doing, being conscious of the contribution that you're making in your family, in your church, in your community. So it's not about filling forms. It's about just being conscious of what you're doing with your lives, auditing yourself. That's what I meant. I hope it is more clear now. The other one was about the healing childhood wounds. And I gave an example. I said that when we have childhood wounds, it colors our reality such that it affects the kind of relationships that we form. So that you will have someone who may have an abandonment wound, someone who may have grown up with a parent who was emotionally absent or maybe even physically absent. And so that person grows up with a fear of abandonment. And when they get into a relationship, always fearing this person is going to leave me. When you call your partner and maybe they're not picking the phone, you think, oh, now they're going to leave me. So fear of abandonment. And what happens is that such a person will keep breaking one relationship after another because they're saying, before you leave me, I will leave you. I will leave you before you leave me. Fear of abandonment. Always being suspicious, being anxious. And we're saying sometimes it emanates from the fact that someone abandoned you. Someone failed to attend to your emotions. Someone failed to be present for you. So these are some of the wounds that people carry. And when they carry them into relationships, then it destabilizes the kind of relationships that they form. And that's why I said it is important for us to have a healthy mind, to look back at our own lives as we were growing up. What are some of the issues that may have happened? And not everyone had issues, but there are those, of course, who may have faced difficult issues. And if they are not conscious of them, then that wounded child will be at the driving wheel of your vehicle. That's what I meant, that they will be driving your life, so that you'll be having a conversation with someone. They tell you something that reminds you of your childhood, and you talk back. You'll be rude, or you insult them, or you walk away. And maybe this is your boss. So your boss will be left wondering, this person needs to grow up. So who are they addressing? It is that inner child. And that's why I'm saying it is important for us to acknowledge that some things may have happened to us, but we are going to now reparent ourselves. Were you discounted? It is time to appreciate your effort. When you have done something which you feel is good enough, you pat yourself in the back and say, Beatrice, well done. Reparenting means that you're giving yourself what you would have wanted a loving parent to give you. But because they were not there to do it, then you're doing it to yourself. It's like you're raising yourself all over again. Because we say that if you don't forgive those people who cut you, you will bleed on those who never did. So for us not to bleed on people who are innocent, who did not hurt us, then we need to acknowledge some of these wounds and reparent. By reparenting, then we are putting some ointment on those wounds, so that even if someone says something that may remind you of your child, it will not hurt, and you will respond instead of reacting. It's a huge topic, Evangelist. Maybe one day we can find time to talk about it.
Yes, and I'm fascinated that you are also writing a book on it. So
Yeah.
maybe once the book is ready, you can also let us know, so
Yes.
that many of us can read further. I know for sure it's quite a wide topic. The
Yeah.
other thing that Rose was asking is about now the children. And sorry, I'm also parenting. And I'm saying,
Oh. Yeah.
there are many times that her children will act in a certain way, and then
Yeah.
she finds herself find herself telling them that they are acting like children, and they don't want to hear that. So how should she approach such an issue? This is in line with the picture that you had shared of a child driving a big vehicle.
Yes.
So that is what I think was her third question.
Oh, okay. Now, if they are children and you're telling them not to behave like children, I'm a bit confused there. Because if they are children, then I would expect that they'll behave like children.
Hers are adults.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when we talk about reparenting, we are talking about being conscious of the things that we say to our children, the things that we do to our children, which later on in life may affect their well-being. And so, and that's why I think still in this, in one of these forums, I talked about the A's of raising healthy children. You know, affirming your children, admiring your children, being conscious of the things that you are saying to your children. If they are adults, then maybe you can correct them, but in a loving way. You can correct them. But if they are children, then we need to allow children to be. Because again, if we are too strict with our children, then they will grow up thinking that, playing and having fun is a bad thing. So they become so restricted, they become so, conscious of what they're doing. And meaning that, such children, even when they form relationships, they'll be the tense one in the relationship. Where watch hiyo mchezo? Don't do that. That is childish, And yet, we need to allow our inner child sometimes to come out and play. So depending on the age of the child, then you can guide them. You can guide them depending on the age. If they are very young children, and maybe like Evangelist, one day we can talk about these stages of children up to the age of 65, from 0 to 65. What are the needs of children, the needs of teenagers, the needs of young adults, the needs of, older people? What are the needs? So that we can be conscious of what we say to our children depending on their age.
Right. Thank you so much, Daktari. I mean, this is a conversation we can't exhaust.
Yes.
Like you said, it's quite wide, and members will agree with me.
Mm.
And because we have to take a break now, we appreciate so much your presentation, and thank you so much, members, for hanging on, and especially now that we are past our usual time. And we also want to spare time that we can also, have time also with our families.
Yeah.
So, and you can hear some of them are demanding my attention right here, but it's fine. And it's a blessing. So, Asanteni, I want to ask Lillian Nje here from Plainsview to pass a vote of thanks to our facilitator. And after that, lead us in the words of the grace. Lillian Nje here, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can, Evangelist. And thank you very much to our facilitator. That was very informative. Some of these things sound like a very simple discussion, but they are very loaded.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are grateful because you have really fed us with a lot of information that is applying to day-to-day lives and things that we are seeing every day. And so we want to say thank you. And we look forward to more on the same line, because like you said, it is wide and it cannot be exhausted in one evening. So
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Amen.
So we can proceed to say the grace, Evangelist.
Yes.
All right. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ,
God
And the love
and
of
the
God
fellowship of the Holy
and the
Spirit
fellowship of the Holy
be with
Spirit
us now
be with
forevermore.
us
forever.
Amen.
forevermore. Amen.